How's it going, guys? My name is Phillip COF. My main topic is basically about generations and electronics. How electronics are harming people and changing their their health and productivity. So one of my main points, my supporting points, is like people tend to be less productive while they're using the electronics as a source of information. Let's say when you guys are, I'll be honest, when I was trying to write this, I used my laptop. I was on Tumblr. I was on YouTube listening to music. So that's kind of a proof that how electronics are starting to take over on a daily basis, and how we basically, let's say, study, I would say. And another claim is just people tend to use the modern electronics as a distraction and harming them most of the time. Most of the mobile devices, when you're basically it comes to this first point where you're using a laptop, but also you're using your phone's next to you, and then someone texts you or someone calls you, and you ended up picking up, and then all that happens. You guys end up distracting from your responsibilities, your main goals in life, I would say. Another is if you compare to 2003 and 2013, this year, study shows what I read from the ABC News is just shows that kids in our age group is having less being more distracted and being harmed more compared to the 2003 people. Even though they had phones and all that, they did not use as much as we do right now. Maybe because the technology is more advanced, but that's not an excuse, And my final point, my final supporting claim is kids these days. If you see the future generation is also getting affected by them, where kids these days, they're 3 years old, 2 years old, and they're already starting to play PS3, Wii, and all these games, and end up messing up their mental, or not mental, but more their future goals, I would say, and that kind of just kind of harming them for the future, and that also causes families to have less bonding moments, because usually their sons or their parents are busy doing their own stuff, but kids usually they go and play games, and then they would rather play games more than hang out with their parents and stuff. And also kids, they basically tend to choose more to play games rather than go outside and play ball or have some physical activity. So that's basically my main claim, is more people in this generation and the future generation, they're being affected by the electronics, and then on their daily basis, basically their health and productivity. And that's basically it.
Philip, there's a problem at the very beginning. You phrased this like you're going to give us an informative speech. You're going to tell us how something is happening or how something is occurring, and it doesn't sound like it's a claim. You need to make the argument that this is occurring or that it is harmful. We need declarative sentences. None of your secondary points turn into declarative sentences. They're just signposts of information that don't necessarily tell us what inference you want us to draw. And so you need to be a lot more assertive about telling us what your point of view is, giving us a proposition that we can say, okay, here's the side that I stand on, here's the other side, and here's why you ought to be coming over here. I just get a lot of general information about a particular subject, and I don't always know how I'm supposed to use that information to advance a claim. The strongest part of the argument is the fact that it is subdivided and that you do have 4 secondary points that you're talking about, and I thought that you did give a numerical signpost on each of those points, but like I said, most of those points were not really labeled as declarative statements. They're just general subject matter. On the supporting evidence itself, that's problematic. I think you've got an interesting personal example that you're going to use, and you've got a whole bunch of hypothetical examples, but that's all that you have when it comes to providing proof there. You have a vague reference to a quote that was from an ABC News story, but at best that's a paraphrase, and it doesn't even sound like it's a paraphrase. It sounds like it's a, I read, there's a story on this, but it doesn't tell me what the contents of the story is. You need to have direct quotes from the testimony that you're using. There needs to be some statistical information to support those points. That I didn't hear any source citations other than the reference to the news report there. So it seems to me like the information that you're relying on is very dependent upon these hypothetical examples and assumptions that you're making instead of actual proof. Look, your voice is pretty good for most of the speech. It does drop out right at the end. The pacing is a little bit off sometimes. You've got a lot of time left that you could develop these arguments, and it feels a little bit like you rushed through it when you still needed to explain what the argument is. And so, there are some basic problems that have to do with the conceptualization of what the conflict is about, and that needs to be resolved before we deal with some of those other issues. And then the other issues, they basically just follow because of that. All right, thank you.